Okie dokie, today we're going to talk about swarming, and that is because one of my coworkers who bought a beehive for me came into my office today all in a huff because her hive swarmed, or so she thought. Now, quick note at the beginning before anything else, remember that swarms are normal. This is natural. This is what the bees want to do, and there actually are beehives out there that, despite your greatest efforts to split them, to give them space, to do anything and everything, they're still going to swarm. They just want to swarm. It's in their nature to do it. So, what you can try to do first to try to prevent swarming is you can try to expand your hive and give them space. I've tried this in the past. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. I've gone through in the spring and I've completely doubled the volume of a hive. Given them a whole, it was a single deep and a medium, gave them a second deep and a medium, spaced all the frames, did everything I could to give them space. They swarmed anyway. They just wanted to swarm. What you can do instead that's probably better odds of success of preventing the loss of a swarm is split your hive proactively. And so what you're going to do is go into your hive in the spring, and you can do this even before you see queen cells. You can go through, you can either order a new queen online and split your hive that way so that you have a new queen, or you can just split them, make them a queenless split, let the new hive raise queens, or you can wait until you see queen cells and you're confident there's swarm cells and split them. It doesn't really matter. But what works better is to split proactively, and then once the swarming season has kind of cooled off and the bees have focused more on foraging and gathering honey or whatever, then you can recombine them. But let's say that you didn't get that done. You didn't split them. You go out, you've been checking your bees, and in the spring I recommend checking them every 10 days minimum. If you can do every 7 days, that's great, because you can miss a swarm in a 2-week period. They can actually go from appearing normal to kicking the swarm out. Really probably in less than 10 days from the time they decide to start raising queen cells to the time the swarm leaves. So you really got to stay on top of it in the spring. So let's say you did. You open your hive and the bees are packed, they're crowded, whatever, and you spot queen cells. Now, I always make the clarification, queen cells doesn't necessarily mean swarming. There's 3 different times the hive will raise a queen. I'll talk about that in another video if I haven't already. But first off, you have to confirm when you open your hive that they are swarm cells. So look, you found your queen, you find eggs, the hive's packed, it's springtime, all the signs are there that it should be a swarm. So they're probably wanting to swarm. At that point, you can still split your hive to try to prevent the swarm. So what you need to do is you need to find your existing queen and take her and half the bees to a new location. And as far as what this should do is, as far as they're concerned, the existing queen will look around and go, well, we're in a new spot and I got half my bees, so I must have swarmed. The original hive is going to say, well, the old queen's gone, and we got half the hive and queen cells, so they must have swarmed, so we're happy. Everybody's happy. Keep them apart until the new queens from the new swarm cells. Wait till those emerge, until the new queen is mated and established. Then, if you don't want to have multiple hives, you can go to your other hive, kill the original queen, and then recombine the hives to where you only have one very big, strong hive. But let's say you didn't get that done. You go out in the yard one day and you see a swarm. Now, first question, is it even your swarm? And before that matters, can you catch it? Or do you want to? Let's say you want to catch it. Grab yourself an extra deep, an extra super, a 5-gallon bucket, a cardboard box, it doesn't matter, something that resembles some sort of security. Spray the inside down with sugar water, and with that same spray bottle of sugar water, a 1-1 mix is fine, whatever. That same spray bottle of sugar water, if you can reach the hive, let's say they're hanging on a low limb for easy discussion, spray the whole swarm down with sugar water, set that box underneath them and give that limb a good shake. They'll all fall in the box, close the lid up, and there's a pretty good chance that they're going to stay because they were looking for a home and you just gave them one. Yeah, you forced them into it a little bit, but you gave them what they wanted. They should be happy. Now, of course, you can't leave them in the cardboard box, get them into a regular hive body, whatever. So you caught that swarm, great. But let's say you walk outside and you just see a swarm and you can't get to them and they fly off. Well, shoot, that sucks. I lost a swarm. Or did you? Was it your swarm? So now you need to go check your hive or your hives, whatever. And you should have been checking your hives on a weekly basis or every 10 days, whatever. So you should have known if a hive was getting kind of large in population. You go through your hives and you find one the population's way down. Good chance that hive, if it was strong a week ago, there's a good chance that hive just swarmed. Check that hive. Look for queen cells. The easiest way to do this is pop the box apart. You don't have to pull out each and every frame. Pop the box off, tip it up on its front edge to where you can see daylight through the box. look at the bottom of the bars and look at the cones by looking through the frames. And you should be able to see if there's queen cells sticking out off the frames. A lot of times queen cells for swarm cells are on the bottom and the edges of the frame. It's not a guarantee, but a lot of times they are. So if you just pop the box up, look at the bottom, you can usually see the queen cells if they're swarm cells. If you spot swarm cells, that's fine. Your hive just swarmed. It's perfectly natural. They've got queen cells. They're going to have a new queen in a week, so don't worry about it. Close it up, go in the house, and don't look back for 2 weeks. You can look back in a week if you want because you just can't fight it, but I'm telling you, don't waste your time for 2 weeks because that's the time that it's going to take for those new queens to emerge, to reach sexual maturity, for one to fly off, mate, come back, and start laying eggs. Sometimes even that's not enough, but usually within 2 weeks of the time the swarm leaves, your new queen should be laying eggs. So check back in 2 weeks. Do you have a queen that's laying eggs? Yep, great, you're good. If you don't, then you go on the hunt for, you know, hey, I need a new queen from somebody else because now at this point you don't have a queen, you don't have eggs, so you're hopelessly queenless unless you get a new queen. But that's what you would do after you've confirmed that it was in fact your swarm. Now, something to consider, and really that's all you have to do, but something to consider if you're in the Gulf Coast region where we have small hive beetles that can decimate a hive. If a swarm leaves and it's a very large swarm and they leave behind a hive that has a lot of resources and a lot of combs that now can't be tended to by the bees left behind, you may want to consider removing a few boxes to confine that hive a little bit and make sure that the bees that are left can take care of the resources that they have. I've actually lost hives in the spring that they kick out a big swarm and I think everything's going to be fine, and then a month later or 2 weeks later, whatever, they get slimed out by beetles and I lose everything. So just something to consider. If you're set up in a pretty much a new setup and all you have is, you know, fresh pure beeswax foundation or, you know, waxed right cell foundation, doesn't matter. But if you have a bunch of supers on, 4 or 5 supers, whatever, and all they have in them is brand new undrawn equipment, it doesn't matter. The beetles can't do anything with that. Sure, they can crawl around on it, but they're not going to lay their eggs in it because they want to lay their eggs near the resources, so near the pollen, near the honey. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend having 4 or 5 spare boxes on. But, point being, if it's new, unused equipment, it doesn't really matter. If it's got a lot of drawn comb and a lot of potential resources that the bees can't defend, you may want to consider taking some boxes off just to help the bees that are left not get attacked by, or not succumb to the small hive beetle. But that's pretty much it. You know, again, swarming is natural. It is necessary for a hive to propagate. If a hive never swarms, that hive will just always remain one hive. They will, you know, the queen's constantly laying eggs, but there's constantly bees dying and being born inside the hive. The population of bees in the wild will never grow. So swarming is how a beehive casts off and propagates. It's a spawn, if you will. It's how a tree, you know, makes seeds, how plants make seeds. That's how they spawn and create new. So don't panic about the thought that your hives swarm. Just take those very basic measures to make sure that they survive the swarm and everything's okay, and that's all you have to do. Some people really get upset about the thought that their neighbors might see the swarm and might panic. I've had this happen. I've had a swarm land on my neighbor's garage roof and she did panic. Now my neighbor is especially panicky. She's a wonderful woman and I, you know, like her very much. She's great to hang out with. She's sweet as can be, but she panics over little things. So she panicked because the swarm landed on her garage roof. I went over there, collected them up in a box. In 10 minutes, everything was fine. Everybody was calmed down, and no one cares. But if you see a swarm, let's say you see it kick out of your hive, you know it's your swarm, and you see it take off through the neighborhood. If you can't keep up and you can't catch them, oh well. Because if you can't keep up with them, probably nobody else can either. And the average person, again, is not looking for it. They're not expecting it. And it's no one probably, very often people don't ever even notice. But if it does land in your neighbor's tree 3 or 4 houses away, if that neighbor doesn't know you have bees, then they're going to have no idea where that swarm came from, and you know they're going to put pictures on Facebook and tell people how crazy it is there's a swarm in the yard, and that's the end of it. They might call a beekeeper to come catch them, but they're not going to track it back to you. They're not going to go door to door and ask who has a beehive, because as far as they're concerned, that swarm came out of the woods. If your neighbor does know you have bees and they don't like you, they still are not going to really feasibly be able to say that that swarm came from your hive. If they question you and they say, oh, well, I saw a swarm and it must have been yours, who cares? Did the swarm land in their house and build a nest and cause them any sort of grief? No? Then what's it matter? I don't recommend lying. You know, I try to be morally and ethically upright all the time. But, you know, if you got that neighbor that you think is a threat and you think they're going to come after you for some reason, all you got to do is say, look, it's not my swarm. I checked my hive, and my hive is healthy and fine. And probably if they're coming after you because they saw a swarm, they probably don't like bees, so I highly doubt they're going to go check the swarm or check the hive to confirm. So, I mean, I'm going off on tangents here, but the important thing is to remember no one in any sort of normal real-world scenario is going to come tracking to your door because they saw a swarm in the neighborhood and try to pin it on you and somehow harm you because of it. So don't worry about it. It's normal. It's natural. See it for what it is. It's a beautiful thing. Appreciate it. If you can catch it, that's great. If you can't, oh well. They're going to go on. They're going to set up shop somewhere else, and hopefully we have more wild feral bees. So I hope some of you see this. I hope you take it seriously. It's not that big of a deal. It's nothing to panic over. If you want to try to run home and catch them because you think there's time, that's cool. That's great. That's up to you. But if they get away from you, oh well. Take the basic measures to make sure your hive is going to have the staff that they need to manage what's left after the swarm, and they should bounce back just fine. A hive typically doesn't swarm unless that hive is confident that it will survive the swarming practice. So it's natural. Relax. Check your hive in 2 weeks and see how things look, and we'll go from there.